Welcome to Sweethearts or Rivals. I'm Charla.
I'm Justin.
What's on our table today?
Lotus.
Lotus is a game you can play with 2 to 4 players.
Yep.
Can take you about 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And they recommend it for ages 8 and up.
There you go.
It's published by Renegade Game Studios.
Right on. So what do you think of the components of Lotus?
I think the components of Lotus are very lovely. The
Definitely.
flowers are beautiful.
Yep.
And I love that they just fan out so perfectly. They have these little outlines here of how the petals should lay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make a flower and you finish it, it's very impressive.
Yeah, it's very cool. Right on.
Yeah. The cards are all good quality weight cardstock.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't linen though. They're just smooth, but that's okay because they need to slide easily when you're placing them in their position.
Yeah, I think linen would have been a mistake because it would mess up the look of the flower.
Too sticky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then everything else is great. They've got these cute little wooden pieces for your guardians.
Mm-hmm.
And the colors are nice and bright too, so they're easy to distinguish between the player colors.
Yep. And even the symbols, if you have some colorblind issues, the symbols work really well.
Yes. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Next is the strategy, which is the strategy, tactics, and luck.
Nice. So it is a bunch of decks of cards, so there's going to be the luck of the draw, but that's very easily manageable because one of the actions you can take is to slide cards under your deck and then pull more off the top, the exchange, which actually takes the whole deck and turns it into the possibility of long-term strategy because you can take the same kinds of petals, slide them to the bottom of your deck, and that becomes your end game strategy,
Right.
which is kind of neat. That's very cool.
But you have to be a little bit careful, as I discovered in the playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take that action a whole lot more times than your opponent because all of a sudden once their deck runs out...
Yeah.
Like,
are you going to get to those cards?
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had an issue with that.
Yep. So it is tricky, but the possibility is there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you have to manage it. It's kind of...
Yeah.
It's a fine thing to manage, I think.
Yep. Most of the game is going to be very tactical, and you're going to have to base your decisions off of what is out on the table, what cards are coming up in the wildflower cards in between, and how are you going to manage the timing of them so that you can take control or finish the flowers out from under your opponent.
Right.
And that's where most of the game comes in because it's not really random, it's not really long term, it's more of the last minute, like, oh, you just put those 2 flowers out? That means I can put these 2 out and take control of that. Haha! And I do that. Mm-hmm. So there's that timing mixed with kind of mind games. Are you going to do that or are you going to do that? If you do that, then I can do this, which means you can do that.
Right.
Which is kind of cool. It's neat.
Yeah, I find it works really well for an area control for a 2-player game.
Yeah, surprisingly well. Which is nice. Because I don't expect that for an area control game.
Not usually.
Yeah, right. So, what about the complexity of Lotus?
I like that it's not complex.
Yeah.
Sometimes area control, you can get into really thinky decisions.
Yep.
Really hard things and trying to work out. But I think it's just at that nice level where you don't have to have too many turns ahead of thinking, if I do this, they're going to do this. But then if they do this, I can do this or this. Now, if I do that or that, what's going to happen? Like, you don't have to get too far down the line of that.
Yeah.
It's more of an immediate resolution, which is nice.
Yep.
If you know what I mean.
I do.
Hope I didn't make my complexity talk too complex. And I like that there's only 3 things you can do on your turn.
Yeah.
Because you're either going to put the cards under your deck and replace them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to place 2 petals or more if you have infinite growth.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can place out your guardians.
Yeah.
For the area majority.
Yeah.
And then it's nice that you can get the extra player powers.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only 3 of those as well that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
So it's not even like going to be too complicated into like building your strategy, because if they had like 15 different tiles that you can choose from, then you're going to have to sit there and try to think, well, which ones are going to synergize the most together.
True.
So I like that there's just 3.
Yeah. Although it would be neat, like in an expansion, to add a couple of extra.
You could, but still only to buy 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of neat. Interesting. Future expansion ideas.
Maybe.
Haha.
You never know.
Cool.
And I also like that it's so easy to set up and play.
Yeah.
that it really does take you within that 30 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you really feel like you've played a game where you've made a lot of good, smart decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of the time smart. You watch the playthrough. But yeah, it's a really good kind of light to mid-weight quick game.
Yeah. It is pretty cool. I guess in a lot of area control games, you have like the area or the land that you're trying to control, and then you're moving armies in and having these battles. But here, a lot of the time, the area control is being created as you create the areas themselves, which is unique, and I think that works quite well.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why it works so well for a 2-player game, which is kind of cool.
Well, and just that your area are flowers.
Yeah.
And you're picking them, and the petals are your points.
There you go.
It's awesome.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. And finally, we talk about playability.
Yes. The mechanics versus the theme. The theme is you are controlling the flowers as you grow them and then pick them with your guardians. So it makes sense. It's not a violent area control game, which is very cool because they're not into... Like if I put out one of my guardians, you put out your guardian, they don't have like a big battle.
Oh, expansion.
Maybe. I don't think that would work well.
No, probably not.
I think the fact that you're trying to control the majority of the petals is good without there being like this big direct confrontation war.
I like that it's just numbers.
Yeah. So that works. How would scale with number of players? In a 2-player game, right at the very beginning, because you can only ever put 2 flat petals out at a time, there's almost like this kind of like chicken. Like, ooh, I'll put this out, which means... there's 3 petals that need to go out, which means if you put out 1 or 2, I could take it next round. So there's almost that kind of like back and forth.
It's, a little bit of push your luck, almost. Because, I mean, who knows what you've got in your opponent's hand.
Exactly. So that's very interesting in a 2-player game, which that kind of goes away as soon as you start getting some of your special powers. But that's okay. At the beginning of the game, it makes things kind of tense. That would be, with more players, either more tense because... You've got 3 people that are going to go before you.
Is this flower ever going to get back to my turn?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we forgot to say a disclaimer at the beginning. Like, we've only ever played this as a 2-player game, so this review is just based on our 2-player experience.
Yeah. So I think the different player counts would change up the strategies that you would do quite a bit. It would still work. I could see them changing. Like, I don't imagine in a... 3 or 4 player game doing a lot of the 3 petal flowers, these ones here at the beginning of the game.
You'd probably want to save it until you have infinite growth, and then always just take the 3s for yourself.
Exactly. But in a 2-player game, those are quite easy to finish really quickly.
So you get your special powers faster.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's cool. The game length is super awesome because it's super quick, especially if you cycle through your deck quickly, which is awesome. And then, does it have replayability? It does, because how you take your special powers, like what order you take them in, and which flowers are you going to save for the end of the game, which ones are you going to go for right away. There's several different kinds of strategies you can try out there. And again, I think with different player counts, it is going to change up those strategies quite a bit.
It is, because every time I play, it's like, well, I'm going to try this next time and see what happens.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. I do, however, think there's definitely room to expand it with more of the player abilities, because then you could grab 3 out of the however many you have, and that would be like your synergy for that game. That would make it an interesting kind of replayable ability.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's a 30-minute filler game. You don't necessarily need that.
No, you don't.
It works quite well as it is.
And I think it's neat too, because you could also have an expansion where you didn't necessarily add more flowers, but you could get a different flower that had 4 petals.
Oh, okay.
So you could switch it out, and you could have different flowers too.
That's true.
You could customize your game experience.
Nice. Yeah.
It would be really neat.
Cool. All right, so does Lotus have, this is a silly question, the awesomeness or the cuteness?
I think it's got both really high, but I think the cuteness tips the scale just slightly.
Yeah.
Because it's so beautiful. I mean, even the box art is beautiful.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a pretty awesome box art.
Yeah, the very first time I saw that box all those months ago,
Yeah.
I mean, it stayed on my mind.
Yeah. What is that?
I must learn more about this game.
Yeah. And then even the pedal cards, like the pedal cards aren't identical.
No, which is
Pedals
really
are a little
cool.
different. The background behind the pedals are a little bit different. So like this 5 one here, you got some trees, sky, and clouds. Very nice. Yeah.
It's beautiful. So if you've got a game group asking you about Lotus, who would you recommend it to?
Definitely a game group that likes a filler style game. They like to get into that kind of area control, but they don't necessarily enjoy that kind of war style confrontation.
I think it's a really good fit for casual gamers.
Yeah.
And people that play a lot of games as well.
Yeah.
I think they recommend for ages 8 and up.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a really good game to introduce the concept of area majority to
Younger gamers. Yeah. I had Tiny Epic Kingdoms at a gaming group at school, and because that is a directly confrontational war game, it was very interesting because nobody ever really wanted to attack anyone unless they could guarantee themselves the win. So suddenly it became a whole bunch of ganging up on people, which wasn't fun for anyone. So taking this to school and getting into an area majority without like soldiers beating each other up and ganging up on people would work quite well.
Well, I was just going to say too, like, some parents may not want to introduce their younger children to that kind of like soldiers war and all that kind of theme. So it's nice that you can learn this concept through a game that's got butterflies and caterpillars and dragonflies and beautiful artwork.
So, are we going to trade Lotus or are we going to keep Lotus?
I'm keeping Lotus. You better not trade it behind my back.
I'm not arguing about that.
Okay, good.
No, it's staying in the game collection.
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable. Very good game. And did we finish Lotus as Sweethearts or Rivals? We finished it as Rivals.
For sure, Rivals. I mean, I was looking at it like, I'm not picking these flowers for my sweetheart. Like, these are my flowers. You get your hands off of those stems. Yeah.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So that is Lotus.
It is.
Right on.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks a lot.
We'll see you in the next video.
Laters.